You can leave that bumper in. All right, cool. There you go.
There it is.
Yeah. Let that satiate. Talk amongst yourselves. Thought we'd feature a different Kelly Reverb track, go way back on this one. But hey, everybody, welcome to This Pink Cloud, where we are all about helping you obtain and maintain your sobriety.
Yeah. Morning, everybody.
I am
Welcome to the
DJ
show.
Kelly Reverb. This is the Professor Nolan.
The one and only.
We met at Rehab Summer Sky.
No, that's a lie.
Yeah, right.
I'm not copping to that.
But we're out here doing it and, trying to let everybody know there's a bunch of good information, in my opinion, IMO, that we're going to give you today. We're going to talk about, we can just go into it. Talk about, how a lot of people use AA successfully, which is great. But that we also want to let you know that there are other alternatives.
Yeah, so not in not just AA. There's a million 12-step programs out there.
Right.
AA, NAC. I mean, there's the 12 steps have been utilized for people that shop too much, people that Overeaters Anonymous. So
sure.
It's something.
Sex addicts.
Absolutely.
Sure.
It's something that's used in a lot of different venues, sort of for self-help, if you want to call it that. But yeah, kind of like Kelly was saying, it's it's something I know. I'm relatively familiar with 12 steps and those kind of programs. I think they're great, but it's also not the only way that people get sober. I mean,
true.
Probably the most tried and true method is go to jail.
Yeah.
Go to jail for a little while.
Yeah, that'll get you sober, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're hooked up with the toilet wine industry.
Well, and I say that as a joke, but I also mean that seriously. That a lot of folks.
You've gotten straight in jail, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of folks will go to jail, and then there are. The state is trying to get better about offering, about first noticing when someone is a drug addict or an alcoholic.
Right.
And that's what
they're just like, just throw them in isolation and let them sweat it out, dude. Here's a blanket.
And then, and then also, offering help in there. There's ministry work that happens in prisons. There's 12-step meetings that are taken into prisons. There are programs.
So basically, if you're an addict or an alcoholic, go to prison. Right?
That's what I'm trying to say. No, I just mean that it's it is a stopping place on the journey for many an addict and alcoholic, and it's one place where people can get some help.
Sure. Well, hey, let's talk about. We'll go into that a little bit more about alternates, but let's talk to you a little bit about 12-step action.
Okay, sure.
And I mean, you and I both use it personally.
Yep.
I think you're a little more deeper into it, and you're definitely a big booker. And
I'm a deep thinker. But
yes,
I'm an intricate and complex guy. No,
you are special.
Well,
sure.
It's something that I was exposed to at a very early age. I mean, I had a problem with alcohol and drugs by the time I was, 14.
Sure.
So it went off the rails pretty quick for me.
Right.
And it was something I was exposed to at an early age, and I've incorporated it into my life as much as I can, to varying degrees of success, a lot of success at the moment.
Sure.
But yeah, it's kind of like we were saying. There's a lot of different I don't know, abbreviations out there. Something A.
Yeah.
Depending upon your specific deal, what your
your
drug
addiction
choice
is.
might
But
be.
I mean, what I like about it is that anybody that is addicted to really, any substance can go. A lot of them do go to AA,
Sure.
just because basically that's what it's fundamentally based on. And I'm not discouraging the use of AA whatsoever because it works for a lot of people. And, I use it to, as you say, stack the deck in my favor. And the more sober things I do, the better off my chances are of not relapsing.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. There are some tried and true methods out there, and that seems to be one of them. But I guess what I would say is that there's a lot of different avenues to sobriety out there, or to recovery. One of the things that they all sort of have in common is community.
Right.
You know, getting in with a group of people that are trying to do the same thing that you're doing.
Sure.
And try and better yourself with that group of people.
Well, I think, you know, and what you said, I love the word community, because that is a huge part of your recovery, or even thinking about recovery. So even if, I mean, honestly, I went to plenty of AA meetings, feeling just fine, if you will.
What do you mean?
I was not blacked out, but I was definitely strongly buzzed.
Yeah. Got a little face tingling going on.
Yeah.
Little more.
And then,
smiley
of
than
course,
normal.
they were going through the 12 traditions, and I'm like, crap, man, my vodka's in the car. I did at least respect it that much to where I didn't bring it in the building.
Preoccupied a little bit.
Right.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
You know, the community is an important aspect of it. There's a practical reason of a lot of people when they get sober, most of the friends and whatnot that they have at that point are drinking and using drugs.
Sure.
So that makes it difficult. Not impossible. There's exceptions to every rule, but difficult to maintain any kind of sobriety if you are hanging around folks that are drinking and doing drugs all the time.
Sure.
So finding some new people that are trying to walk that path from that practical standpoint is important. But I think there's also something else that goes on, just to sort of...
Well, I think relating to somebody else that has a similar problem that you do, I think it's, you know, I mean, like I've sat in many a AA meeting, and I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
That's my story. So it's definitely...
Yeah, there's perpetual uniqueness is a good way to put it, right? Like most alcoholics and drug addicts kind of have this feeling or this notion that they're the only ones that are going through this, or the only ones that are this bad.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody
Nobody stashes vodka in water bottles and, you know, keeps it in their side door of their car, you know.
So getting out of your shell and meeting some other folks that have been through similar stuff, or currently going through similar stuff, that's important. And, you know, 12-step meetings is a good place to do that. There are other places. We were talking about it before we got on air. But
well, I can go into actually a list of what we have coming up on the show. So I'm excited that we're getting actually professional here a little bit, trying to.
I don't know about this.
Yeah, but no, we have some really exciting guests, you know, not including Curt today, but so we have the girls from the Phoenix, Dallas, which it's actually a nationwide nonprofit, and what they do is do sober events, rock climbing, yoga, everything you could think of, and they'll actually go scoop people up from rehab centers, do events with them, but then they do tons of events outside of that. So we're excited to have them on next week.
Yeah, just having fun in sobriety.
Right.
That's a big thing.
And then we also have my new friend, Leanne, and she is actually with sobriety.ca. She has a really killer website that she developed, and she's all over social media, kind of like me, you know.
.ca, what is this? Is this foreign country?
No, I was like, what is that, California or something?
It's California.
But no, she's actually out of Halifax,
Canada.
Yeah.
Our neighbors to the north.
Exactly. And then we have Gia Francis from Sobriety One Day at a Time. It's a group I just found on Facebook. Okay. Speaking of community, she has about 43,000 people on her Facebook page, and she is just a straight shooter, I tell you what.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot out there, especially in social media formats. You know,
oh, by the way, welcome to social media. I made Nolan actually create a Professor Nolan profile on the Facebook.
I'm on the dark side now. I've crossed over to the dark side. It's where all the power is.
Right. And then who else do we have? And then in January, I'm very excited about this guest. We have Dr. Robert Hernandez coming up, and we're going to talk all fun stuff like Suboxone and harm management, which everybody has their opinion on that. So there's going to be some advanced Def Jam on sobriety.
No, look, this thing is a medical problem.
Yeah.
And it is a recognized medical problem.
Well, I'm excited for that episode because I'm going to
medical point of view.
I am going from an actual doctor. I know. I'm like, we actually had Mark Cuban on the other week, and I'm like, okay, well, there's our lawyer, and then I'm like, Robert or Hernandez. Oh, there's a doctor, dude. We're like interviewing. We're just two addicts that are like having a show and interviewing people that are sober and doctors and lawyers, and I'm like, wow, how did that happen? But anyway, I guess we want to kind of get to our guest today.
Yeah, we can jump into it.
And this is one of those outside sober activities outside of AA that I was telling you about. And drum roll, please, my friend, my new bestest buddy, Curt.
You don't want to be
and I'm going to get it. No, I'm going to get his last name correct. Curt Eichelberger. That is correct. Curt Eichelberger. Say Eichelberger 5 times fast.
I can't.
Hey, Curt, just be sure and talk into the mic so you'll have to kind of, there you go.
Yeah, and you can move it wherever you want to do. That's your mic now.
Yeah, dude, it's all you, and it's COVID-free unless you have COVID. Right.
I wouldn't know today.
Okay,
know, right?
Cool. Basically, thanks for coming on.
Thanks
and,
thanks,
he does an event called Skate Straight Dallas. And it's at a skate park called 4 Down. And it's just people getting together that are in all stages of sobriety. They do a little yoga and stuff like that. But we'll get into that more. But so Curt started this, a year ago?
It'll be a year in February.
Okay, cool. And he's got all kinds of cool swag, like as you see the sticker on my computer and stuff like that. So I'm a swag hound.
Yeah.
And
the
of course,
T-shirt you have
of
on.
course my T-shirt here, which he has on. But he always has better gear. He makes like one-offs, and I'm like, dude. Well, I want the hoodie, dude. And then
You
he's
don't
like,
get the hoodie.
I've got shirts. I've got shirts.
You got to work your way up to the hoodie,
Right.
all right? You can't just jump in.
But
feet first.
before we jump into all that fun stuff, which we already have, I want to get Curt's background story, basically, start off with, where your addiction started and what your DOC was.
Well, it started like where most people start, 14, 15, around that age.
Sure.
Maybe even 13. I don't remember the exact day, or year, but I know that it started with drinking. I got into the skateboard and punk rock culture, and that was a heavy party scene.
Straight edge kid.
I wasn't straight edge, but I did hang out with a bunch of straight edge kids, and I was very aware of it. I wish I would have followed it more. I wish I would have listened to Minor Threat a little bit more.
Ian McKay.
Yeah.
Or is it Ian McCaw? Whatever.
Who
Yeah.
knows?
McKay, McCaw, tomato.
I'm not
Yeah,
gonna,
I got
I'll
you.
probably never talk to him, so I don't want to offend him. But I'm trying to pronounce his name, but it started with drinking and partying just like everybody else, and then it just progressed. And that culture is a heavy party scene. It went from going to the skate park every day and drinking afterwards to going to get beer and drink at the skate park, and it just kept going. Then I ended up working at a bar. Worked in the bar industry for years.
Deep Ellum.
In Deep Ellum. In the
Where were you at? July Alley?
July Alley,
Yeah,
Elm
July
Street Bar.
Yeah.
I worked at London Tavern. I worked at Old Crow.
Which
Just
London
tending
Tavern
bar?
were you at?
Just bartending?
Which London Tavern were you at?
The one in Lower Greenville.
Oh,
Next
I was
to
there all the time, dude. What was it? Carlsberg Snake Bites, dude.
Yeah.
I was all over it. Yeah, that was
I
me.
was like one of the only Americans that worked there. Everybody else was.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
But yeah, I stayed in that scene for a long time, and it just got worse and worse. And then, as I got older, the party didn't end. I had kids, got married, drugs went away, but then the drinking just always stays as a constant.
Yeah, that's a common thread.
And then it got to a point my wife had a family member that died in a drunk driving accident.
Hold on. Who's your wife? Stacy?
Stacy.
Stacy, hi.
Shout out to Stacy.
There you go. I always got to try to score my dude friends points for the wife mention. Oh, and by the way, my wife had a birthday. Happy birthday, Waverly. Okay, anyway, so, yeah.
So she had a family member pass away. It was her brother, and she basically had just quit drinking. And I didn't want to continue drinking in front of her, so I started to hide it. Hiding and lying turned into guilt and shame. Guilt and shame, it progressed, and I wasn't drinking anymore for fun at all. Actually, no one knew I drank. My family didn't know I drank. That my friends
That
didn't know
you
I
wouldn't
drank.
even casually have a beer out.
If
You
I
would
went
just
out-
say it was your dirty little secret.
Yeah,
and-
everyone assumed that I had quit drinking pretty much like my wife did.
Ah.
And so no one ever saw me drinking. No one ever knew, and it just that spiraled out of control, and it just got worse to where it was like every 2 hours I was drinking.
Yeah.
And I mean, waking up in the middle of the night.
But
to
nobody, I mean, your wife couldn't tell. I mean, because usually wives are pretty intuitive about
yeah,
that.
my wife
and
was. She had busted me a few times, and it caused a little rift. But she never told anybody. She carried that burden around.
Oh, yeah.
The whole time, and never exposed me. And then it came to a head one day. She, it always that argument. You're drunk, and I'm like, I'm not drunk. And then there'd be an argument, and I was.
I'm
drunk.
not drunk. Come on.
And
I just fell down for no reason.
yeah, and I left the house, spiraled out of control,
Uh-huh.
did a bunch of just drunk things, went out, drank in front of people, which was a big shocker. People started calling my wife and going, "Hey, Kurt's here, and he seems drunk and drinking a lot." And
Yeah.
because I was like, "Screw it, I'm doing this. I don't care what anybody says." And
Yeah, it's done now. Let it
yeah,
loose.
and that went on for about 4 or 5 days, and then I finally called home, and she said, "If you want to come here, you got to get help." And I, over the 30 plus years of drinking and doing drugs, I never attempted recovery. I never went to a rehab, never went to AA, didn't know anything about it.
Did you
really.
even try to like pump the brakes or dial it back,
mean,
or
I'd
were you
always
just
have,
like
Sure.
you'd get a good day or two in?
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
like stomach flu when I'm really going through withdrawals.
Yeah, right.
And I would always try to like do it myself, and it would work for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Just sort of like-
Yeah, that's the magic number. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
then you go, I feel great. It'd be better.
Being drunk again.
Yeah, get a little buzz.
A
How,
little buzz.
how long were you in that sort of hiding it mode?
About 6 or 8 years.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
And to hide alcohol like that, that's difficult to do.
And
It's
yeah.
the stress.
It's a terrible way
I
to
mean,
live.
waking up at 5 or 6 in the morning, having to drink because you need to drink right then. Your body wakes you up to go drink, and then I had to think about how I'm going to get bottles back in the house. I'm going to get the old bottles out of the house.
Oh, yeah.
How am I going to make sure my wife doesn't see me, the kids don't see me, and how am I going to do
I
my job?
I
all
love
day?
the bottle shuffle.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
I've done that many a
no,
time.
it's a rough way to live.
Yeah, it
I
is.
relate. I did
mean,
something similar for
If you break
about 4
down,
years.
what you're doing and how much time you spend on thinking about that, getting the bottles out, getting the bottles in, how you're going to drink, how you're going to sneak drinks in while people are all at your house, and no one sees you, and then I added it up. It's about 8 to 10 hours a day. So that's
Dude, no,
basically
it's a job, right?
It's taking
yeah,
on another
exactly.
full-time job.
Yeah.
and it was when you remove that, that's what a lot of people struggle with is like now
Filling
they have
that
all
time.
They have all that free time. What do they have
Oh
in that
yeah.
time?
And it's not just filling the physical time too. I think it's a lot of filling the mental time.
Right.
Like, it for whatever reason when you were talking, it made me think of how I used to always make sure I was keeping a good physical distance from people because I didn't want the smell of alcohol.
Oh
to-
yeah, or chew a lot of gum. I
So-
was a dentine fireman.
I can't tell you how much brain power I used just making sure I was at a, just
Yeah.
waste of time.
Sure.
But yeah, like you said,
It's-
time's
it
got to be
was-
filled.
Yeah, and that caused anxiety, which later when I was going through my last spin out, that anxiety level shot through the roof, which I ended up having a manic episode, which I'd never had before. I didn't
Yeah.
even know, I grew up in the family where it was like, if you fall and you're like, if you can move it, it ain't broke. You don't have-
Rub some dirt on it,
Yeah.
kid.
yeah, you don't have mental problems. Just
Yeah.
get your crap together and go, whatever. And
Sure.
I grew up with that mentality. I'm like, I didn't know what was happening to me, except for I wasn't sleeping and I wasn't doing drugs. And
Yeah.
I was just basically having a hardcore freak out and it ended up being a manic episode brought on by anxiety, which if you have anxiety issues,
Sure.
alcohol makes it worse. And
Oh
so
yeah.
it
Well,
just-
no, it makes it better for about 3 hours, and then you have to keep it going.
yeah, well, then you have anxiety
Yeah.
because all the problems you had before are still there. Now
Yeah.
you're just dealing with them hungover or trying to get booze on
for
top
sure.
of all your old problems.
And physically and chemically makes it
Yeah.
a lot worse
Right.
too. Yeah.
So I went to a rehab facility. It was faith-based rehab facility, which was hard for me because at the time I still consider myself pretty much an atheist.
Uh-huh.
So wrapping my brain around the higher power was a big deal, and to the point where everybody that I was in rehab, like all my counselors and stuff, were like, you don't have the coping skills to stay sober if you don't believe in a higher power. And I was like, I just don't believe that's true.
Yeah.
But I still read the big book. We did 2 classes a day, 3 classes a day, plus 2 AA meetings a day, every day for 30 days. And then I got out and I was like, there's got to be more out there. And that's when I really dove hard into researching all different types of recoveries. That's what I found. Smart recovery.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah,
so
refuge recovery.
Yeah, well, why don't we tell the people what smart recovery is? Why don't you? I'll let the experts tell the people.
Yeah, well, you probably have more experience with it than I do, but my understanding is smart recovery is essentially it uses the idea of like meetings and community, but sort of less emphasis on God and higher power than there might be in like 12-step work. But I've personally never, I think I've only been to 1 or 2 smart recovery meetings, so you would probably be better.
Right.
I'm a certified facilitator.
There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, what it is, it's basically based on it's self-managed and recovery training. That's the acronym for SMART.
There we go. Those acronyms we were talking about.
Yeah. So what it does and what I kind of emphasize in my groups is behaviors and habits, changing behaviors and habits, and how you could change those behaviors and habits. It's taking like learning coping skills and cost benefits analysis is basically like a pros and cons list, and AA has like the play the tape in your mind before you take a drink. What's going to happen? Like it's the same thing. Cost benefits is sort of the same. It is just more of a scientific medical look at it as opposed to just using a higher power.
Right.
And it's honestly for me, I went to AA even though I didn't have a higher power. I still like the fellowship and the people.
Well, there's a whole chapter of atheists that do go to AA. So.
Yeah. Well, I think I think a practical approach is kind of what I'm getting out of what you're talking about. A very practical approach. I think AA and I don't want to just single out AA, really 12 steps in general. While it may not be in the literature a ton, it is in there some, but adopting that practical approach and changing behaviors and that kind of stuff, that's a big part of the fellowship. I mean, it just works.
Yeah. I mean, it does, and it's, habits and behaviors is what I really emphasize with my groups, and changing habits and behaviors. It's basically replacing all, like we're talking, the routine, the program you were in before with the program of drinking and getting drunk, and then changing that to a positive, more, a behavior, just taking that habit and changing it to something that's positive. For me, what I always say is something so simple, just the act of like thinking about what you need to drink, going to the liquor store, buying it, coming home, making sure no one's around. Like that is a routine. You're in a program.
By the way, did you know the people at the liquor store?
I was smart in my drinking.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Yeah.
I love the quote marks. Yeah.
I lived walking distance from 3 liquor stores.
Yeah, sure.
And my brain,
so you would rotate liquor stores?
No, I never went to those.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't want to walk in there with my wife and then go, "Hey, Kurt, I know."
Oh, yeah.
Like,
what's up, homeboy?
Yeah.
You're regular? You're usual, sir?
I would bounce around to different liquor stores. That way no one ever knew who I was. I didn't want them to ever, because in case, what if I happened to go into that liquor store and buy something? I actually with somebody. I didn't want them to know me.
I actually had 3 that I would go to just so they wouldn't think because I'm worried about what the people behind the counter think of me at the liquor store. They're gonna think I'm an alcoholic. Oh shoot, maybe I am. Man.
If you're there at 10 a.m., there's probably
Well, the 10 a.m. and the 9 p.m.
Yeah,
you gotta. That's
all that brain power. Going into that, I mean, there's a hole that's got to be filled with something.
Yeah.
I mean, and I try to explain that to people that I work with now, and I try to say, like, all that is, you're in a program already.
Yeah.
It's switching that program to a positive program and doing something that's positive as opposed to doing all that. I mean, something as simple for me was tea. I know it sounds dumb, but it's like, I put all that power, like all the thought process that went into getting booze, and I realized in rehab, because we had free tea there, and I would drink tea, and I had this red Solo cup of tea constantly with me, and I'm like, okay, maybe this is my new thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I got out of rehab, I decided, what kind of teas were good? What has the most caffeine? What brands do I like? And
sure.
Making sure there's always tea in the fridge.
Yeah.
The same
well,
thing.
You've got to choose your energy drink wisely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I'm on the Kroger brand.
Yeah.
But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's occupying that space in your brain, that sort of obsessive space that can go there and put in something positive in that hole.
Well, yeah. And people tend to think negatively if you say
True, it's got
obsessing,
some negative
but
connotations.
But if you really obsess about something that's positive, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with obsessing over wanting to learn about recovery. You should
Sure.
learn about it. I mean, I'm surprised at how many people are in recovery that don't know there's other options.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's why I love having you on the show. I also, you said something earlier, and I wanted to touch on it. You are now working at Homeward Bound, correct? And
Yes.
why don't you tell them what Homeward Bound is and your little story of how you actually just kind of not dumbed into, but lucked into that job.
Yeah, I had been, because of COVID, had a lot of free time, and so I started educating myself, taking online courses from home, just reading a bunch, and I wanted to get more into the peer recovery specialist part of it. And
Okay. Yeah.
the way that I was thinking about even doing it myself, because you could go and take the online courses yourself. It's kind of pricey, but I was about to pull the trigger on doing that, and I just on a whim reached out to Homeward Bound, who's right down the street from where I live. It's a state-funded facility, and I figured, well, it's probably running on a budget, so they might take a volunteer if I volunteered to my services, or just to shadow somebody, or to even help out, file clerk,
just
anything.
to help,
Right?
just to
Yeah,
learn.
just to kind of
I just wanted to see what it's like firsthand being in a.
You came in with the intention of shadowing somebody.
Yeah, and that was my intention. And then we started talking, and I explained to her what I did with Skate Straight, what I've done in recovery since I got out of rehab, and they said, well, how about you just work here, and we'll train you up to where you need to be.
Sure.
And I was like, they said usually we wouldn't hire somebody that has 1 year sobriety.
By the way,
thank you.
1 year.
1 year, November.
Oh,
Good
nice.
job. Yeah.
Congrats,
and,
man.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, they just said, you've done so much in recovery, we have a good feeling about you.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I'm on a 90-day probationary period, so I could,
Right.
In theory, you
Sure.
theory.
burn it down.
But I mean,
sure.
I went there,
Burn
and
it down.
it isn't your average Joe rehab facility. This is state funded, so it's people that don't have money can afford a lot of.
This is
people.
your hardcore Joe
Yeah.
people, mental issues,
Well, and it's
mental.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. It's yes, you're not wrong.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I've been to Homeward Bound. I've been to Pine Street in Fort Worth, the Fort Worth equivalent of it, a few times. I mean, it's just a reality that a lot of treatment facilities are very expensive.
And by the way, how do people actually go to one of those facilities if they want to, if they can't afford help?
Well, it's first come, first serve. So you show up every morning at 8:00. They open the doors. So if you get in line, you get first come. You get in. You fill out your paperwork. They do a screening, and based on that screening is what services they would offer you.
Right. So, and it's kind of like almost triage unit based.
Sure.
So you take
Yeah.
the most extreme cases. And
Well, it just depends on what those cases are. Sometimes, there are people that need a higher level of care, and those people would be directed to a different facility.
Sure.
That would be whether it be mental health
Sure.
Yeah.
level or medical. Like sometimes people just will send them to the hospital because their heart rate's so high that they need to
Yeah.
Yeah.
actually detox in a
Sure.
Older
hospital
folks
first.
that have been drinking for a long, long time, things like that.
Well, we have
Yeah.
detox, so if it's really bad, we will detox people. We use MAT, which is medical assisted treatment, and we will do that. Crisis unit is what I work in. Crisis is the unit that deals with dual diagnosis, people that have mental health issues and have addiction issues.
Well, which can also be brought on by your addiction.
Yeah.
just,
Exacerbated.
just to add that.
At
Yeah.
least exacerbated.
people
Yeah,
will
exactly.
end up-
Yeah.
they'll have, some psychotic issues because of it, especially with long-term use of some stuff. And then what I do is I kind of walk them through the crisis unit the days that they're there, and then help them find placement after. Like, if they want to go to sober living, if they need to go to a 30-day treatment, if they need to, I basically just try to walk them through their treatment while they're there.
And I'm sure you've only been there, what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Been a month.
Month? And you've probably already helped a lot of people, and they can relate to you because you're a cool guy with tattoos, man.
Yeah, I get the.
It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
I
I got street cred, dude.
No.
Every day I get mistaken for a patient. So that's an
I
everyday
love that. I
occurrence.
love that.
Like, I had somebody yesterday. I was in training. I was running through the hall, and they go, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "What?"
I work here, dude.
Sorry, you have a badge. I didn't see you have a
Yeah.
I love that.
So just to jump in, so specifically, like the way it always worked for me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Like you said, you show up at 8 a.m., you go through your screening, fill out some paperwork, all that kind of stuff, and then you might get put on a wait list of some sort. It might be a week, might be 2 weeks. It is a little weird with COVID going on right now.
Yeah, right now with COVID, it's super. It's hard for everybody. So you had to get COVID tested if you're going to be on the 30-day program. The 30-day program right now does have a wait, but it's case by case basis.
Yeah,
I mean, there's people who come in, that need help more than somebody else, and they need medical assisted treatment immediately, and that's what everybody gets. We see everyone that comes through the doors, so we just decide where they're going to go and what best fits them, and if they can fit into our building.
But they're good facilities. I mean, I'm telling you, Homeward Bound and Pine Street are facility-wise. I mean, literally just the building itself, just as good as a lot of rehabs that are charging $20,000 out there.
Oh yeah. So there are alternatives if you do not have insurance.
Yeah, and I'm telling you though, the people that work there genuinely care about the people that are there. Well, because everybody there has probably had an addiction at some point in their life. Yeah, most people that work there have had some sort of story that attached, whether it be a family member or themselves. Especially in peer recovery, we all have been through recovery. That's part of the deal when you're in working in that program or our program. And everybody. But it's just, everybody really cares. I've been in there where, I've seen techs and nurses they're getting really upset because there's they know something bad's going to happen, or they feel sorry for somebody, and
well, no, at that point, like when you're an addict and you're clean, it's kind of like I can feel a disturbance in the force. It's like a Star Wars thing. Well, that person's had a drink. I can tell.
You figure out that helping people is a huge part of your recovery.
Well, yeah, it's A helping B helps A.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
I agree.
And one of the biggest things that I could take away from AA is service work. And I say service work, it's not washing coffee cups and making coffee.
Cleaning toilets and
at the AA building.
Right.
Actually getting out and helping other people and not expecting anything in return.
Yeah.
Right.
It humbles you.
Sure.
Puts you, I mean helping in any way, shape, or form. Not just people in recovery. Helping,
absolutely.
I'm a big advocate for volunteering. When I was in my active use, my wife volunteered all the time, and I was a slug sitting there on the couch watching sci-fi, not doing anything except for drinking. And now I look back, and she was always the saint that was doing all the great things, and I get to feel that now, and it's I couldn't believe.
You were missing out.
Night and day. And I think if I would have even followed her to volunteer, it may have curbed a lot of my.
Have.
I don't know that, but now I get to be a part and be of service as much as I'm lucky to get to do that, because there was a time where I wasn't. The doctors told me when I went into rehab that if I would have continued on my path, that I would have had weeks, not months, years. Weeks I would have never had a rock bottom because I just would have died.
Yeah.
Right.
The way I look at it, like for me personally, is that I owe a debt really to the human race, if we're being honest.
Right.
I was a taker for a long time, and I don't literally mean stealing, although that's
part of it, right?
But just taking people's peace of mind, all of that. So anything I could do to give back to maybe balance those scales a little bit.
And during addiction, you are not you are not who you are, and definitely you're self-centered, and it's all about, and it's not even really like an ego-driven self-centered. It's more of a, hey, I need this, and I have to do it. So
but the actions are still out there, and they still have repercussions.
I definitely believe it was all about me. That was all I thought about it. What I can get, how I can get it, and I don't care about the other person. handing change to somebody on the street when I'd go, change comes from within, and walk away laughing because I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
And now the irony is I'm working with people that are coming off the streets every single day, and I actually genuinely care about their well-being and trying to help them.
Right.
I mean, it's been a huge change for me being able to do that. Plus working in Skate Straight, I'm working with people that are also in recovery that may be struggling. I always say Skate Straight is like sometimes recovery training wheels, like for people who want to dip their big toe in recovery, but they're kind of scared. So whether they never go into a room in AA or any sort
and
of
course,
program.
everybody there, and I love the segue, but everybody there is really unassuming, and there's no judgment. I mean, because just last Saturday when I was there was a kid that was not sober, and he was struggling with it and super nervous, and I'm just like, here, dude, here's my number, call me, you know, and I'm going to hit him up and try to get him to come out again. And then there's guys that, you know, like me, I'm like, 142 days sober. And then Kurt's got a year. And then, I mean, we have some old timers there too, right?
Yep. I mean, we have people that have 1.5 years, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years. I mean, to me, I try not to count the days.
Yeah, It's not a seniority contest.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying that it's all over the place in sobriety.
Time matters, don't get me wrong.
I mean,
Right.
I don't want to take it away from anybody if they are counting. And I mean, even though I say that, I could tell you I don't go to AA to get my chips. I order them from eBay. And
that's what I do, dude.
And I just plunk them in my jar and go 1 year.
Right?
Even though it's a party for myself.
I look at it as like a little merit badge for like Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts. I got the pat.
There's nothing wrong with celebrating that time.
Right.
No, and, I mean, and it's a celebration within my own self, but I don't. With a lot of people get wrapped up in it, and that's what can cause some people to go back into that guilt and shame. And what I've known with people in other programs is that if they lose, they're like, oh, I got to go back to day one.
Yeah.
And then they'll end up lying to the people in recovery.
Yes.
And then not tell anybody. So then they're internalizing it again.
Yeah.
So now they're lying to their family and the recovery family, and still getting guilt and shame, and it's going to progress, which end up hurting your health long term.
Do you hear that, people? You need to be honest.
Yeah, no, it happens, and it's not a seniority contest, but you do sort of develop that idea that it is.
I'm more sober than you, Nolan.
Well, no, you bring up a good point.
Well, what I try to say, because I've worked with people that have had what I call slips, and there's lapses, and there's relapses. And the slip is when you mess up and have a drink, or mess up and have a couple drinks one night, and the next morning you wake up and you're like, damn, what did I do? I still want to be in recovery, but you pick yourself up, dust yourself off. If you drank every 2 hours for years, and I have 9 months sobriety and I drank 2 drinks, I don't lose those. That's a win. 9 months is a win.
It's all time in the sunlight.
Yeah, there you go.
And if I have one day, I'm not going to stop counting those days, because I'd have that time, and you were right back into it. And a lapse is, what I would deem is somebody that goes out for like a week or something, 5 to 7 days or something like that.
Sure.
And they're still wanting to be recovered, and they stop.
A reasonable bender.
Yeah, and then well, I mean, it could be anything. Life happens, People get stressed out. COVID is stressful. I mean, a lot of people are losing their time right now because of COVID.
Yeah.
Because of things like meetings being shut down and
I mean, not in-person meetings is a big deal. And I think relapse, for me, my personal opinion, is when you completely turn your back on recovery and you go right back out and you don't want to ever come back to recovery again.
Sure.
And I think a lot of people don't feel that way. They want to be in recovery. They want to have that moment, but they carry this day counting thing, and they put too much,
too much faith in that.
Well, emphasis on it, and then they feel like they had to go back to zero.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a famous.
Well, I would be, but I kind of use that as a motivation, because
it goes both ways.
I actually, because I would be really bummed if I went back to zero.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge streaker.
No, there's 2 sides to that coin.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a famous story that somebody in one of my Smart Recovery training classes told. They said they were at a party and a woman ate rum cake, and she was like, "Oh my God, I had 13 years."
I don't count that.
And the guy was like, "Whoa, no, the alcohol's burned off. You don't have to start over."
I love it.
Or like, I mean, there's one of the training classes I just took yesterday. Alcohol is in a lot of stuff you probably don't even know. I mean, Scotch Guard,
hand sanitizer.
Sterno. I mean,
Sure.
rubbing alcohol.
Yeah. I mean,
cleaning
I've been drinking
solutions.
hand sanitizer like crazy. I don't count
Yeah,
that as a
dude.
Well,
rub.
we
Well,
can't have hand
That
sanitizer at my work.
that and
Yeah.
and mouthwash.
Nah,
You know.
Just kidding. People.
So, I mean, that accidentally ingesting alcohol, Listerine, anything
Sure.
like that.
Right.
Sometimes diehard AA people think, well, that's
Oh,
alcohol.
yeah.
If your lips touch it, you're automatic relapse. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
No.
I don't agree.
Sorry.
With
That's
I-
something. Well, that's something that's kind of faded away now. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's more of an old school method, but it's still out there. Sure. I
Well,
mean,
there's
all kinds of ways to look at everything.
I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of what you guys are talking about, SUD, like substance use disorders. Like AA doesn't acknowledge that. AA doesn't acknowledge peer recovery. They think that you should have a sponsor,
Right.
and which in reality, it's kind of like that, except for, we're actually helping with like getting IDs or
Yeah. Sure.
helping,
Yeah.
helping
Yeah.
somebody get
You're
their
just an
food
ally
stamps. Yeah.
in their
Well,
sobriety in their life.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, coming out of recovery, out of rehab, at first going in, I was like, 28 days, it's way too long. I'm going to lose all my business. Everyone's going to hate me when I come out. And I
Right.
get out, and I'm
Yeah.
like, 28 days was nowhere near enough time. I needed
Yeah.
a year in there
Sure.
to even grasp what was going on. And stepping out into the real world, I could see where people would just be like overwhelmed, especially
yeah.
if they have anxiety disorders or
Yeah.
anything
Right.
like that. It would just be overwhelming. And then that's why people end up getting out of rehab. They're in a bubble, and they step outside that bubble, and all of a sudden they're right back to where they were. All
Right.
their old
Well, and I
problems,
think
they
a
go
lot
back.
of that is hanging out with their same people that they used to hang out with before. That's a
Yeah.
the
There's-
company you keep.
Yeah, there's all kinds of reasons. I get what you're saying, and
Yeah.
some of it's semantics.
Well, I mean, if the trauma is still there, if
Mm-hmm.
you're still in a house where you have negative memories, that's where you drank. Or
Oh,
if
yeah.
even if it's where you work, if you
Oh,
work
yeah.
at a bar or a restaurant and that's your job.
Well, yeah,
you're
and
going
then
to
your
pay for
Coke dealer
house.
shows up to where you're bartending,
Well,
and
I mean,
you know.
or if your spouse still continues to use. when you
Yeah,
come home.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all different kinds of things that you get plunked back right into your same scenario, and people go right back to doing it. It's just it's too hard for them, and they don't know that there's other options and things. I mean, for me, what I had to dive into was I kind of look at my sobriety as like a tabletop, and I need AA, I need smart recovery, I need to go to a therapist, I need meditation. Like those things balance me in order to make for my table stand up. And I mean, I probably overdid it. I used to make fun of people that were like, I went to 90 meetings in 90 days. And I joke, I'm going to do double that. As a joke. And I really did. I did way more than
That's
I was.
a skateboarder in you, dude.
Yeah,
It's
well-
like, oh, I can do that.
no, I mean, well, what happens is it starts working, and you kind of
Yeah.
just keep,
I mean, and the more education that I got under my belt, the more. I mean, then I started going to meetings, and people that had more years than me didn't know what a peer recovery coach was. They didn't know.
Sure.
They didn't know like that there was all these other things that could help them.
Other
out there.
avenues, just tons of them.
I mean, and I
countless.
think with recovery, they should do all of it. You
I
should
agree.
have access
I
to,
agree.
and pick what works for you.
Here.
Yes, yeah. Pick what
Yeah.
works for you. I think one thing, whatever reason it made me think of this, a common thought process of folks that go into treatment is, okay, I'm physically addicted to X. I get that. I need to separate myself from X for a period of time, and then
And
I'll
not
be okay.
ecstasy, but X being
No.
your
Yeah.
DOC.
But the idea being, I separate myself from it, and then I'll be okay.
Right.
I'll set it down. I won't pick it back up, kind of thing.
Well-
And there's some other things that might need to be, like you talked about. If you're going right back into the same environment, you might find it a little more difficult than you planned for.
The real gateway drug for most people is trauma. There's something that happened to them that caused them to want to change how they feel, and they pick up whatever substance it is, and then that substance, within use of enough time, your body becomes physically addicted to it.
Yeah.
Now, when you go to rehab, you've separated that addiction. Now your body's not physically addicted, but the trauma's still there.
Yeah.
You still want to change or shut off the voices, or whatever that is that's bothering you that makes
Sure.
you want to continue to change how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's what continues to happen. And so they don't know how to cope. There's no coping skills in there to fix that trauma. Like if someone's drinking because of grief, they have to fix the grief. The drinking is a side effect.
Yeah.
And once the grief is fixed, the drinking will go away because you're not no longer having to change how you feel.
Sure.
And that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. Like they think, oh, well, if I just go to these meetings, it'll change. Well, no, because you still have trauma, you still have issues, you still have to deal with, one of the things with the step work for me is if you take the a higher power part out of it. It's just about fixing the things you've done that are wrong, and helping other people, and letting and be accountable for your actions. Like basically telling somebody, physically telling them all of the bad things you've done, just to get it off of your chest.
And taking a look at your behaviors and your patterns and things like that, and trying to change those.
And if you break those down, yes, if you've done it wrong to a lot of people, fix it. And if you need to talk about your problems, go see a therapist. I mean, you can still tell your sponsor, but still you need it. There's things that that a sponsor is not going to be qualified to do. If you have any sort of major trauma in your life where, something happened when you were a kid or whatever it is, you need a professional that's going to talk to you. And it might be just something as simple as a mood stabilizer. For me, I didn't realize I had depression and anxiety.
Sure.
Now, I didn't think that because I would be a wimp if I had those things before.
Sure.
But now I actually take that into consideration,
Right.
and I got on medication. It's amazing. I don't feel weird anymore because I take medication. I don't feel like I'm on anything.
And isn't it nice to not have to need alcohol?
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Yeah,
like
self-medicating a little while there too. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, I always use that as an excuse, which is what it is. I mean, it is, but if you learn about what alcohol actually does to the body, there's a book called This Naked Mind. If you read it, it basically has the stats of what alcohol does to you and what it does to your body, and you start reading it and go, oh. That's why I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning every morning, because my body thinks I'm being poisoned, and it doesn't want you to go to sleep because it thinks you might die if you go to sleep. So it doesn't let you go into REM sleep. That's why you never get fully rested. That's why you wake up tired no matter what.
And then that's why you take benzos with it and develop a benzodiazepine problem.
Actually, a lot of that happens.
And the other thing is stopping cold turkey. I know Big Book was written in 1939, and so they didn't know that what the physical effects would do to your nervous system when you stop cold turkey. It will kill you.
Oh yeah,
and that could be anybody.
It can, but I mean, there are people that are not as physically addicted. Like we had our friend Lisa on the other week, and she actually quit cold turkey, but she had somebody there with her to kind of monitor. But I definitely highly recommend anybody just at least go to detox if you're to the point of where you're drinking every day and doing all the sneaky stuff that Curt was talking about.
And especially with alcohol, because a lot of times, people assume that it's just the shakes or whatever that they'll have to deal with, but where the real serious physical stuff starts kicking in around day 2, day 3.
Yeah, I mean, and then you go through delirium where you start hearing voices, seeing things.
Heart rate goes
up. That's what your body starts, the nervous system starts reacting. Is because now you've taken that chemical out of your system, and then your body thinks it needs it, but also at the same time while you're putting it in, it's poisoning your body. So your body starts reacting to that. That's it'll shut your nervous system down, stop your heart, and you'll die. Benzos and alcohol, the two worst things to detox from.
Yeah, and I was doing those together.
And so detoxing from those two, you need, for benzos, I don't know if you did it, but medical assisted is way better because you taper down off the chemicals they give you.
Right.
And then alcohol, just having fluids and having a heart rate. I slept with a heart rate monitor for 5 days because my heart rate was so out of whack.
Sure.
And but being my age, heart attack is definitely something that could happen.
Yeah.
Because I've done all the.
What are you, like 25, right?
No, I'm 48.
Yeah.
And with older people, it could definitely be a bigger thing. And so I recommend, if you don't know, talk to a doctor.
Absolutely.
Hey, so I don't know if you had anything else, but I kind of want to get to the fun stuff and talk about the actual event that you're doing, Skate Straight, which I highly enjoy. And if I enjoy it, then it's got to be cool.
No, I mean, the only thing I was going to say is, so I have a huge appreciation for anybody who's out there trying to help drug addicts and alcoholics. People tried to help me. And like I said, I owe a debt. So anyways, thank you for your service.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing your story and just being frank. But I think it's great.
Yeah.
And then, now let's talk about skating, man.
Yeah, dude. Okay. So this, it's at 4 Down, which is in South Dallas, right outside of Deep Ellum, right?
It's
correct?
2633 Ferris Street. It's
there you
right
go.
outside of Deep Ellum. It's only a few blocks. It's in an industrial area right outside.
And the owner of that spot is actually a pro skater, was
a pro skater. Was a pro skater, retired, but his name is Mike Crum.
Okay.
You can Google him.
Name drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mike.
I'm not even that into skating, but I know
Yeah.
that name.
Oh well, no.
Yeah.
I always tell him, I go, dude. Like he'll do a post on Facebook, and I'll go, my poser ass will be there. You know, I'm just like,
Well,
it's you don't have to be a skater, by the way, to come out. And
No,
we do
no.
yoga too, right?
Yeah, there's yoga there on Saturdays. We work with Phoenix Group, which you guys talked about
we have
earlier.
Phoenix Group coming on next week, and they do all kinds of sober activities. So
Yeah,
they're great.
So when I was in rehab and I went to a couple AA meetings, and I was in Kerrville or in around Kerrville area, and it was a pretty country town, and I was like, this is what it is. Like, this is my life. This dark rooms with these older rednecks.
Right? Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I can walk into a room and generally spark up conversation with people. I can blend if needed.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard for me. But I can see where younger people, and I was in rehab with some younger kids, and I could see them cringe. You know, one, they don't get the higher power thing. They don't relate to any of these people in this room. And I was thinking to myself, there's got to be a cooler way to do this. And so my thought was I should do something skateboard related for like the weirdos and the freaks and geeks of recovery.
Yeah.
To one, get them to try it, and two, for people that are anti other programs, come in and have a place to go, or go to both programs and have a place to go.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was sort of like a sober meetup type of deal that I was thinking about in my head, and I got out and I started going to Smart Recovery. I became a facilitator, and I ran a couple of groups at different locations, like I would sub in for counselors or whatever, and I thought, well, I'm going to do this. And then right when that happened, another close friend of me and Mike's had passed away from alcohol-related death. And we were like, I talked to him about it. He said, whatever you want, park's yours. You can have it. Just give me a day and we'll work it out.
Cool.
And so Skate Straight was born.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Right then, I started creating the logo. I worked in graphic design before this. I was an artist in the music industry, and so I did.
And you designed all this cool stuff.
Yeah. So
Let's get the important stuff, the swag.
Yeah, dude, I love the yellow one. Yeah, if you would zoom in on this, if you can.
Yeah, here. Let's get shots.
So I started.
Let's get shots of all
I
the
did the important stuff. Came up with the logo and the idea, and then we got the day, and we started. I met another facilitator named Stev. Shout out to Stev. She helped me get in my feet wet in running meetings and being around people and doing that kind of stuff. And then we started doing it, and right out the gate had a huge response.
Sure.
I mean, like right before COVID, we were doing 15, 20 people every meeting. We became the largest Smart Recovery meeting in Dallas County.
Okay.
From the day we opened and started doing it.
Yeah.
So it is technically a smart recovery meeting
It's
with
based-
And then
this
his shirt over
program.
there.
Yeah, it's based in Smart Recovery because we're both facilitators of Smart Recovery. I actually
Show him the back of your shirt, by the way,
I have a
and the arm, because the arm's the coolest part.
yeah.
Skate straight, and then the back. Got it?
I can't spin around.
Oh, it's all good.
You're gonna get him choked. By the
Yeah,
cord,
yeah.
man.
Sorry, dude.
I'm gonna spin out of the chair.
But those shirts are available at skatestraight.com, right?
Skate Straight Dallas.
Oh, sorry. skatestraightdallas.com. And you can buy those, and actually the proceeds all go to your nonprofit.
Yeah, well, they all go to to help fund our in-person meetings.
Right.
And I was just telling them we are a recognized Smart Recovery meeting. So if you go to smartrecovery.org, we are on there, and it says my name and the skate park.
Cool, man. That's great.
So yeah, we started doing it, and it became a huge thing. And the great thing about it is we always keep it fresh. There's no rules. I said this to you. Wrangling a bunch of artists and skaters
Yeah.
around rules is hard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
makes
sometimes
sense.
we have outdoor meetings. Now all of our meetings are outside. But before we would bounce around. We would meet at other skate parks. We'd have field trip meetings.
Right. Well, and I also want to encourage the people to come out there, that even if you're not a skater, feel free to come out, because I'm a big watcher. So, and I skateboard in my mind. But then also there's the yoga aspect, and there's a good 30 people out there doing yoga outdoors, COVID friendly, wearing masks. And there's that aspect. And then, cool skate park, cool people, all walks of life. So, it's just a win-win, and you got to come out.
Yeah, we're lucky to have this space. Thanks to our sponsors, we're
Sure.
Dickies.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Based company.
Nice.
Dickies. Topo Chico is a sponsor.
Really?
Home Depot is a
The
sponsor.
hipster water.
Yeah, and it is an all sober event space too. So there's no when we came in, and then some other nonprofits came in, we decided as a group to always be a sober event space. So
Cool.
like anytime anything we would be doing there would all be a sober environment. Like last time before COVID, we had an art show there, and Topo Chico had a craft mocktail bar, and
Cool.
and we had gourmet food. A lot of the people that come to the meeting come because it's different. They're sick of doing that. They go to all their other meetings, but they come to Skate Straight because it's a different thing. Plus,
Sure.
it's like a
I love the fact in the meeting that there's crosstalk, because the crosstalk is honestly at AA, I would love to go, don't do that, dude,
that
or
would drive me
whatever.
crazy.
But yeah, at Skate Straight, you can actually, people just chime in. I mean, if somebody's pouring their heart out, respect that
Yeah.
and let them talk. But you can jump in and say, hey, what about this?
Yeah, I mean it's
It's different.
It's a
Yeah.
support group. So if you've
Yeah.
been to a process group in rehab,
Mhm.
it's more based on that. I got more out of those than I did in meetings. But I mean, like I said, I'm a person that likes all of it. So I'm into all forms of recovery. I think it's all great. But
Yeah.
what we do is kind of support. So if you're in there and you're saying, I'm struggling with this, I'm doing that, I need to go to something, but I can't do this because of my work, there's someone in our group that can give you a guide to what to do. Like,
Yeah.
come to our group, or, hey, you needed a IOP, which is intensive outpatient program. I know where a good one is. There are great counselors there.
Yeah.
We're all there to support each other in recovery.
Yeah,
And it's accepting of everybody. Like, I don't turn anybody. I said, you don't have to skate.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be sober. You can come. Just be sober when you're there.
And that's
Right.
that's the
Sure.
thing with all of this that I kind of want to chime in with. There is a way into recovery for anybody. There is not, there's not a lot of barriers up to smart recovery, to 12-step meetings, to anything really.
Right.
And if you try something out and it's not, to your liking or whatever, like, oh, I'm a very Christian person maybe, and this wasn't what I was looking for, there's options for you if you're very,
Sure.
if that's the way you want to go. And if it's the flip side of that coin, if that's not something you're comfortable with, there's options for you. The point is, there is a way in for everybody. There's no, if you think there's a barrier, you created it in your own head. There's
Right,
an option
yeah.
somewhere for you.
Yeah, and I mean, even this show, thispinkcloud.com, is an option for you, because we're here to educate and disseminate some information that
Yeah.
people might not know about, because I didn't know about all this stuff. It's like
Absolutely.
this secret society out there of sober people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's insane. Once you get sober, you're like, oh wow, all this stuff was there all along.
Yeah, that whole
So-
anonymous thing is really, like you mentioned, the Big Book was written in 1939.
Yeah, sure.
And that was something that was an important aspect of AA at that time, and it's still to a certain point. Basically, everybody kind of gets to determine their own level of anonymity that they want. But either way, that was just the point I wanted to make. Was there is a
Right.
way in for just about anybody, and
Also, an alternative, we have to do this. We're not necessarily, but we went to Summer Sky.
Yeah.
So, and we just want to give them a shout out, because they're actually funding our show. So it's, I believe you have the address over there somewhere in our folder.
Yeah.
Summer Sky.
Summer Sky, it's a treatment facility.
No, but I was going to say, you're always good with addresses and stuff like that.
www.summersky.us
Yeah.
is the website, but it's a treatment facility out in Stephenville. Very affordable treatment facility with a lot of good people. I've been to some different treatment facilities, and I'm not going to name any names, but the point is, they're all run a little, some of them are run a little differently, and like you were talking
Sure.
about with Homeward Bound, to me, the most important thing is being around staff that care. That
Yeah,
care.
and they definitely do that. So
That matters a lot.
Yeah.
And kudos to that place for being one of those
Right.
facilities with people that care.
Sure. And then, so did you have anybody you wanted to shout out to, or how are we doing on time? We got 3 minutes?
About that
Oh,
time.
man, we're good. Wow. Well, we got it all in.
Yeah.
So, but anything you want to plug? Obviously,
Plug or just kind of wrap up?
Yeah.
Whatever you want to.
Well, I mean, if anybody's interested in going, you could always follow all of our events on our Instagram page. It's Skate Straight Dallas, at Skate Straight Dallas on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an interview page too. It's at skate_straight_talk.
That's
that
not
one-
confusing.
No, do that one more time. Just
Yeah, it's at skate
Well, if you-
underscore straight.
Yeah, but if you type
Hold on,
in at
let him
skate
get
straight-
through
let
it.
him
man.
get through it.
Let him get through it.
Okay.
underscore talk. So
Okay.
it's straight talk, but it's skate straight talk. And what I do
Yeah.
is interview people, and I'll, you know, I hate to use the term, but like alternative people, tattoo artists, musicians, people that authors,
I'm a musician.
bands, DJs.
Yeah.
And I kind of get their personal recovery story. It's to show people that other people out there like them have gotten through this.
Yeah,
Sure.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things for me going through recovery was I always thought a part of me was bad because I grew up in this
Yes. Yeah.
ruffian
Well,
environment.
you always hear
Yeah.
about, oh, he went to rehab.
Well, I mean,
no, it's
not
just-
the stigma
Yeah?
so much.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's a whole different.
Yeah.
You can do a whole show on stigma.
I know what you mean.
Sure.
But I mean, I always thought it was the way I was brought up. People I hung around with. How am
Uh-huh.
I ever going to get out of that? The part of me was always bad. But the reality was, I was using that as a crutch.
Right.
I used that as an excuse to continue my behavior, and you know, honestly, with the people, places, thing that we talked about before,
Mhm.
the people that love you are going to stay there.
Yeah.
The people that are going to not want to be around you because you're talking about the great things you're doing in self-care and to help yourself, those people don't want to be your friends anyways.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I always try to stress that to people. Like, I didn't come out going, oh, well, my life's over. I just did what I did, and the people did want to hear about all the stuff that I'm doing. They
Yeah.
just went away.
Right.
Everybody that really cares, even people that continue to use, actually stuck around, and they're interested in what I do.
Well,
Just
and
like
I
one-
love it like that. I consider us friends now, and I mean, through sobriety, you create new relationships and better relationships, and people that'll cheerlead for you. Like me, I'm over here with my pom poms for Skate Straight. So
Yeah. Skate Straight Dallas, man. Kurt, thanks for coming
yeah,
on. Thank you.
and then also real quick, coming up next week, we have the girls from the Phoenix group, and that's going to be great. And you can go ahead and fade that music in. And also, just remember, what is my new quote? My new closer. Here we go. There is no magic pill for sobriety. If there was, we would all take too many. Thanks for joining us, guys. Oh, it said, there is no magic pill for sobriety. If there was, we would all take too many. Huh? Okay.
Oh,
cool.
we got it at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, nice. Beautiful. Look at that.